In the parables of the Lord in the Gospels, the Lord spoke something or said something about the use of material resources. No, in the first place, when he spoke about the parable of the talents, no, where the master distributed an amount to each of his servants. The first servant doubled it, and the same also with the second, but the third uh, buried it under the ground, and the master rewarded the first two because they doubled what was given to them, but he he castigated the one who buried his treasure or his talents under the earth. And here you can see that even if the talents signify any other goods or any other abilities, it can also signify material resources. And we can get from this parable the idea that we should make proper use of them. We should multiply what has been given by the Lord. Also, in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, you see here the discrepancy between the rich man having it all, while the poor man, Lazarus, was sitting at the door of the house of the rich man. The rich man neglected to help the poor man named Lazarus, and he suffered for it when he died. No? He was suffering in the fires of Hades, and he asked Abraham, who was with Lazarus up there in heaven, and he asked for relief to his suffering. But Abraham said, "You had enjoyed all the world's goods when you were alive, when you were on earth, and now it is Lazarus who is enjoying everything in the afterlife." That parable tells us about how we must make good use of our resources, not for our own enjoyment, but for the service of others. Now, in regard to the resources that the church possesses, no, we can also use the same parables and apply them as principles. Now, it cannot be denied that the resources do come to the church because all of us are required to support its activities. That is, after all, one of the 4 commandments of the church, which is to support the pastoral apostolic activities of the church. Now, the collection that comes to the church is actually for the upkeep, no, of the facilities, and also for the maintenance of the church itself, including its personnel. And of course, it is possible that the income or the collection can go beyond what is necessary for the upkeep, no, of both structure and personnel. And so therefore, the church, whether a parish or an archdiocese or any other institution, must set aside a substantial amount for direct care and service to those who are in need. And Pope Benedict tells us that charity, in order to be effective, must be organized. No, the Lord commanded us to love one another and to serve one another. This is a commandment that is given to all Christians and to all believers, but it cannot be topsy-turvy. It has to be organized in order to be effective. That's why in the church we have pastoral programs in the parishes and apostolic activities we might call apostolates and ministries being run by religious institutions in order to directly address the problem of poverty and to help those who are in need. So, in reality, the church in the Philippines and also elsewhere is the biggest charitable institution in the world because the church runs hospitals, hospices, orphanages, and not to mention the smaller undertakings of the parishes where you have feeding programs and scholarships and others. So, if you compare it with the time of Rizal, I think something should also be said about how Rizal perceived the church at that time. No, it is true that what Rizal may have portrayed in Noli Me Tangere is based on what he experienced and what he saw in the church at that time. But it has to be taken in the proper context. No, first of all, the Philippines at that time was a far-flung missionary area, and as anything that is far from the center shows, there is always less accountability and less discipline being imposed due to the distance, no? And so we might say that what Rizal saw at that time is not representative, was not representative of the culture of the church at that time, no? Because the late 1800s was already a time for much church reform and renewal. This is already towards at the doorstep of the 20th century. You might say that there was greater abuse during the early medieval period, no, where there were scandals even at the highest rungs of the hierarchy. But at this point in time, we already have the Council of Trent. The Council of Trent happened in the 16th century, and it already initiated much reform. As you can see, throughout the centuries, that the church has always been in need of renewal and reform. That's why it's the saying goes, Ecclesia semper reformanda. No? And in this during the time of Rizal, where there was also an undercurrent of anti-clericalism running in Spain at the time, no? The Masons were very well organized at that time in Spain, and they were using propaganda in order to loosen the influence of the church in Spain and elsewhere in Europe. And so much of these ideas must have also filtered into the consciousness of Rizal. And of course, it was also part of his experience, no, here in the Philippines. Probably he had some negative experiences in the Philippines. His family may have also suffered in some cases, no. So we have to take everything in the proper context. And so while admittedly some of those abuses during the time of Rizal may also still be present during this time, there's always a need for accountability and stewardship on the part of the church to be always renewed, so that whatever material resources may come its way, it will always be used for the two major purposes I have mentioned. First is for the upkeep, no, and the maintenance of the facilities and the personnel in the church, which is running, or who are running the activities of the church. And secondly, to provide for those who are in need. Sige.